Hello and welcome to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. My name is Mehmet, and as you know, I cover topics from emerging technology like AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and at the same time, I cover also startups and entrepreneurship. And also, I host with me people who are subject matter experts in their field, people who are entrepreneurs themselves. And today I'm very pleased to have with me Raj, who's joining me from the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Raj, for joining me today. Can you just little bit brief about yourself and what you do?
Sure, Mehmet. Thank you for having me today. Really good to be here. As you mentioned, my name is Raj. I'm the founder and CEO of Goodman Lantern. We are a team of content experts helping customers sell better and grow faster. A bit of background about me. I used to do research in AI 20-ish years back when people didn't even know what AI was. Famously, my mother thought AI was a study of UFOs. So as you can see, that was back in the day, but today, obviously, everyone knows about AI. It's the buzzword. ChatGPT has made it obviously a household name. But this is my third business. In the past, I've sold one business, and one was a great experience running it. So in our company today, we work primarily with high-tech companies from defense to fintech to telecom organizations, and we help them with content creation based on our team. And as we talk also through also work we're doing within the AI space now, emerging into the content space.
That's very, like a great experience, I would say, Raj. Let's start, discussion from where you left it. So, you have experience in AI and you are in content creation. Just, you know, people nowadays they are thinking that okay, AI can do the whole thing for me, right? So from your experience, you've been, in this for a long time and you understand, I mean, both concepts from digital marketing perspective plus AI perspective. What do you think the future holds for digital marketing, and in the presence of what we are seeing with generative AI?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mehmet. So I would say that we are currently in a very um, disruptive phase of AI. I think AI has been around for many years. In housing research, it was more theoretical. They didn't have the GPUs to really run the algorithms. Today, they are available, and players like NVIDIA and others emerging are doing a great bit of business there. They was I think yesterday I read that NVIDIA is going to be a $1 trillion business, maybe more. Um, but I think what's interesting for content is that people are experimenting with ChatGPT, with Claude, and other LLMs. That stands for large language models, basically. Big transformers which are allowing us to create content. And the initial perception is that, well, this is it. We've got everything we need. But if you look at content creation is a very complex process. It is a process of taking a thought leadership, a visibility perspective into written or, for example, video production or images. It takes a lot more than just creating content from a, a generative AI perspective or an LLM perspective. You think about how do we bring in the complexities and the knowledge of uh, individuals or companies into this content. And that's not an easy job because there's some data is out in the public, there are other proprietary data, which obviously these GPTs are not, or other tools are not trained on. So, and those bits are really important. And why is that? Well, AI is a bit of a monster. It likes to capture and be fed new data. If you just remix the data again and again, you put that in, it's not really helping the AI to learn from it. And so famously, I did this experiment to kind of talk very quickly maybe to the audience is that create some content which is, say a 1,000 words article done by ChatGPT, and then do another article which is really thought leadership content by real human beings, and feed both of them back to ChatGPT and ask for scoring, and you will see the difference. The content generated by um, human beings, which are very thought leadership driven, with experts writing the content, ranks way higher than just ChatGPT driven content. It's because the remixing of content is great, but it's when you bring in the analysis and thought leadership into it, it makes it really different. And imagine, fast forward today, say 2 years, 3 years, we'll have a sea, an array of content coming in, maybe 10x, 30x more. How do you stand out then? And the only answer is thought leadership. And that requires being creative, having a stance, being different. And that requires real human beings. So AI is great, but you need the human intervention to really fly in this journey.
That's a very good point, Raj. And I had in another episode, me and a guest, this discussion that some people are a little bit worried that first regarding the point you just mentioned, like we will have, like, sorry to say, a lot of rubbish out there, right? Because people will be generating. So, but at the same time, people, we are humans. We like shortcuts. We like to take the easy path, right? So what do you think we should be doing to avoid, as my guest mentioned it, like it will be like a dark age because all the information would be generated from AI, which is actually, as you said, an interpretation of an old text that someone wrote, and just AI is rewriting it in a different way. So this thought leadership, because yourself, myself, and a lot of people out there, we try to get this information, but how we should make sure that this doesn't happen. I mean, we have a dark age because no new content is generated.
Well, what I'll say is this. I don't think it's a dark age of content. Actually, this is the age of opportunity, in my opinion. I'll tell you why that's the case. Um, Typically, if you look at content creation, there's a lot of different steps involved in it. There is, if you look at professionally, content creation requires a kickoff call, a research phase, a writing phase, editing phase, then checking in with the thought leadership. And before that, of course, sorry, there's also a phase of interviewing experts, for example, then creating the content and editing, then having the content rechecked a couple of times before it's ready for draft phase. Now, with I think the opportunity is to skip some of the research phase and start to create some really interesting templates, which can like the mundane task which we do as content creators can be removed. And you can jump into the most exciting phase, which is to create real value. And I think in that way, actually, AI is phenomenal. It actually making us more efficient. A bit like in the back of the day when you used to do hand knitting to create all the garments in the machines, and it made the process easier. Now, a lot of the really high-end goods are still made by hand, but the QA part, for example, some of the initial building, in the pressing, for example, can be done automatically. So I think of this as an opportunity for us. It's not a dark age, but it's actually an opportunity for us to be more efficient and add real value. That means the whole human force goes up and we all become more efficient, earn more money, and be better at doing our job.
A great insight. So this is the way how I can put it. This is the way I also talk about AI, as many of people out there, they are calling it an augmentation of what we can do. Like we see it as an assistant to us. It's not like we will rely 100% on it. From my personal experience, I can tell you it saves a lot of time to me. It can at least for brainstorming, it's excellent. But at the end of the day, I have to put put the text out, whether it's I'm writing something, or maybe I'm recording even sometime myself solo. So this is very interesting point. So talking continuing with AI, Raj, and we touched base on content creation. what other areas, or I mean, in the future, we can say AI, other than content, it can also have big impact on? What do you think the next era would be?
Well, I think AI is really good at, and that's the main purpose of AI is to allow AI to help with reasoning, is to help with pattern recognition, um, that big data stuff that you can pass through it to get trends. I think that's the area where it's really powerful. And the areas where there is a lot of data input required to analyze things, I think one area which you can think of is medical, like, you know, biochemistry, medical sciences is a ton of data which kind of is required. In fact, my first ever job as a programmer was to program a machine to detect AIDS and other diseases from the samples of blood. And I remember, the amount of data you get is so much that it's hard to process it. But to find the pattern, to find the unknown, I think that's where AI is really, really powerful. So I see in medical sciences is a big opportunity. Then, similarly, anything which is like, for example, you're looking through space and you want to find patterns there, that sort of stuff. So anything is like it requires a lot of computational power, and you can't get human beings to do it. That's where AI can do a great job for us. And you know, I think the, I mean, the world is our oyster when it comes to AI recognition. I mean, so far, if we look at the big uh, i- i- incumbents, they've used it like Facebook and Google. They use it for like sending us more ads, for example, or giving us more videos or like posts on Facebook, for example, which I think is a okay use of it. I think the big use of this is really to look at the big opportunity in science advancements. I think that's where I see the real big use case scenario for this. And so, all these things, but we talk about brainstorming, for example, idea creation, for example, using it as a friend. I mean, people who are dealing with depression, for example, this exactly could be a friend for them. I know that's like in the past, you require real human beings to kind of do that, but now you can easily use AI for that. Education, it's a great tool for education. You can actually, some of these models right now are so small, like 100 gigabytes of data can be put in your laptop. Laptop can be given to somebody in a developing country to actually train them, educate them like a teacher would through chat or voice. I think that's a really powerful use case of AI in the coming years.
That's great insight. Now, let me ask you, Raj, because look, you currently have your own business, and you have pursued this into a proper, like you have a PhD degree. I know this. So how like this experience with AI and the expertise that you have collected over the years, how it impacted your journey as an entrepreneur, and how you are integrating AI in your current business today.
So I must say that I was on a PhD to do AI, but I had to drop out because I didn't have enough cash to finish my PhD. But
Yeah,
I still did the research, and I've been researching even before at university. I was even my bachelor's degree. I was doing research in the summer vacations to earn some cash. But what I'll say is this: like I think, as I was saying earlier, AI requires a lot of computational power because you're building, training the AI, you're generating, these very computationally heavy exercises on computers, which you didn't have the power to generate back in the day, but now we do. I think it has given us a new opportunity. It will displace jobs, but it will create new jobs as well, which I think is very exciting. The way I use AI right now is, as you said earlier, I use a lot for recognition of patterns. I actually use it across. This is a mandate we have for our company that everybody in the company has to use AI in one form or the other, and we use it in sales, for example, for recognizing, hey, can we help our customers better? So we get all the scenarios from the customer, looking at what they need, and see where are the blind spots for the sales team to make it better. We use it for creation of first draft of a proposal. That's the beginning part. We then, when you come to content creation, we use it as a starting point to some template creation internally. And I actually encourage people to think about this as a starting point for a lot of different exercises because it's a very powerful thing to do. The more context you can give in the form of just data, in the instance to ChatGPT like tools, or to create like vectors, you kind of like, you know, provide a lot of input, for example, in PDF files. This is a very powerful opportunity, and it will just uplift a lot of people and allow them to do some great jobs. I know our company is say what 20-25% of our costs using AI, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's much more to be said.
This is something I'm personally also doing. Now I have to give credit, honestly. Usually, like I'm not affiliated with them guys, but I have to give credit to the OpenAI guys because the way I think, of course, I'm not an expert too much in AI, but I have took some courses when I was in college, and I know how machine learning works. I think the way they have designed the algorithms, it's like similar to when you play chess game with a computer, so the computer can couple of steps. I mean, it does like couple of steps ahead in, let's not call it thinking or reasoning, but in just trying to do some possibilities. And really what OpenAI is very good at, because I want to highlight what you mentioned, Raj, regarding giving the context. And actually I did a lot of experiments with this. The more context you give, like kind of who, what, why, mainly, and a couple of other things, it start to really generate, it surprised me many times, by doing this reasoning. And this is what I want to ask you actually. I covered on I did it in a form of commentary on this new generation also, which they are using actually OpenAI APIs to create these smart bots that they can do task and they can do reasoning. What do you think about that area that now we are seeing also? There are like top couple of them which I know I tried, Auto GPT and Baby AGI. How do you see this going, Raj?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, if you look at Auto GPT and what GPT or that's called,
Yeah,
I mean,
Baby AGI.
maybe AGI, sorry. If you look at these tools, I mean, what they really are, since you're CTO and you work in technology, it's basically just a for loop. It's all it's doing really is just like taking the different taking one input from an AI, and then putting it back into the next, putting the same input into the another time into the AI, then executing that part, doing it again and again and again. It basically is a for loop. It basically, in simple words, it's basically taking um, one step, putting it into the AI, which is a black box, get the output, put it back into the thing, and as you do that, you execute what the AI just said. I mean, that is not rocket science, I'm being honest with you. It is what you expect it to do, but there's no human intervention there. This is, there are two elements to this. One, it is fascinating to see that what it can do, because it can act as an independent agent and just do things for us. Equally, it's very scary as well. Why is it scary? Well, if you just allow it to do things on your behalf without you saying yes or no, I mean, what's it stopping? For example, you say, well, make me $1 million and here's your $10,000 seed money. It goes in, it takes money from your account, invests it somewhere else. The next step is like, put money somewhere else. What if it loses all the cash for you? All these kind of things can happen. I mean, this is a very simplistic scenario. What I'm trying to say is that we are at the cusp of a very big change. And as we allow this to be autonomous and allow it to be open, things can change rapidly for us. We have to make sure that we have the AI safety, we have some regulations and rules around this because the impact could be massive, especially when you're dealing with, you know, bigger changes or bigger impact without human supervision involved in it. So I don't know. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I think we are in that next step where we are going to allow it to do different things, but we can make sure that we are ready to create something which is not a monster for us in the future.
And this will bring me to ask you the next question, because people always wonder, are we going to lose our jobs? Um, and if this is the case, what skills should we acquire to be ready for, again, the next phase of the AI era?
Well, uh, I mean, the way I explain this is like, I mean, 20 years back, did we ever imagine that there will be a job like social media manager or digital marketing manager or digital marketing agency, or I don't know, TikTok marketing, or there will be a billionaire YouTuber in the back of great videos like Mr. Beast? I mean, we couldn't even think of that, right? Like that was just unheard of. And all these technologies and all these changes have just come in the last 10, 20 years. And here comes another technology, another phase of innovation, which will springboard new opportunities. Already, we hear people talking about prompt engineering as an option, as an opportunity. But I don't know myself, and I don't think many people really understand what it might create for us. Will there be losses of jobs in the current job sector, the current job titles? Probably, but that doesn't mean that there won't be new jobs created out of it. And most likely, the new jobs created out of it will be far more than the ones we lose, for example. So it's time to think about this as a way to elevate ourselves, as opposed to thinking of it as a job taker. It will be a job creator for us. It will be a net positive for us overall. And I think that's the mindset. But I don't have the answer as to what it might create, because we're just tip of the iceberg. As we go further, who knows what comes next?
Yeah, like, of course, no one can predict the future 100%. This is something for sure. Uh, but my opinion, and I'm repeating, and I hope like whoever is watching or listening, they don't get bored, because I always repeat this. It's not like something we live the first time, as you mentioned. Like, it's not the first time we have a new technology that is disrupting. The best thing to do now is to just try to learn how to use it, I would say, and try to think. And this is where the thought leadership that you talked about, Raj, would come into the picture. Try to see how you can utilize it to upskill yourself, or do something useful. Now, I want to talk about a little bit the digital content, right? So you've been doing this for a long time, and how did you see the digital content landscape evolving over the years, and what are we going to see in the near future?
Yeah, so a bit of context of why I started looking at digital media or content. It's because um, uh, as I mentioned, I'm an engineer, but when I was studying and I was doing the research, somebody introduced me to um, MySpace. For people who don't know what MySpace is the Facebook of the older folks like myself. And when I figured like there's MySpace, and like, oh, I can build this myself. So I programmed for 3 weeks or so, 18 hours per day, programmed a clone of MySpace. But then I had this beautiful code, but I couldn't sell it. I couldn't market it. So I went to somebody in the government sort of bodies in the UK, and they said, "Well, you need to do some marketing. Huh? What's that? Do some selling. What's that? I don't know. I'm an engineer." So I did a bit of a crash course on a crash course MBA, and then I learned about marketing and selling, and actually fell in love with marketing. And then I built this software, social media software for large clients and their customers to help them increase the sales. And I did this, did this again and again. And the last thing I did before I started Goodman Lantern, my current company, is that I worked for a company and helped them grow their revenue from 7.5 million to 45 million on the back of great content and storytelling. I was like, this is it. Like, in B2B marketing, this is definitely it. And if it works for telecom insurance, I'm sure it also works for manufacturing and defense and healthcare and biotech. And so I thought, okay, well, this is what we need to create. So I created Goodman Lantern about 9 years back. And, rest is history. We've been growing year on year, really helping scale the ideas and thought leadership and visibility for SEO for our clients through content. I think this whole digital, media and digital content. I mean, this is the prime way to be discovered now. Gone are the days when you should look at newspapers or magazines offline, be like, know about what's there, or, or have to call somebody on the phone to find them out or cold call them. There's a big influx of digital media everywhere, especially, how you discover companies or products or services, through TikTok, through Google, through Bing, through search engines. I mean, it is fascinating. And as you go further, it's not going to change. It will just accelerate quite a bit. Um, but one thing is going to stay stable and the same, which is thought leadership. Thought leadership is something which is what makes the world go round. Let me give you an example. Hundreds of years back, Napoleon used to do press releases to talk about his war campaigns and send the press releases to gazettes to basically get more funding for his war campaigns. You see, all this time there's been content in one form or the other. But the one thing which remained constant across the board is provoking content, which is thought leadership content. If there is thought leadership in the content, if there is some real value in the content, people will consume it and read it in multiple forms. In the previous times, it was newspapers and gazettes. Now it's TikTok, Facebook, social media, websites, and the above. So one thing is going to happen is going to change of medium, but thought leadership is going to remain the same. So I say focus on thought leadership, forgive the medium will come and go, but you just be a thought leader in your space and people will come to you.
Great advice, I would say, Raj. And this is something myself I figured it out also as well. That yeah, like what's gonna stay is your thoughts, what your contribution. So 100%. Now, like I want to ask you also, given your you've worked like in startups and large organizations, how you compare these experiences? Like, what unique challenges and opportunities did each environment present to you?
Great question there. Thank you for that, Mehmet. What I would say is I enjoyed both the startup experience as well as the corporate experience. For me, what was really interesting with um, corporates is that, it's a great springboard. It's a great learning opportunity. I recommend almost every um, new entrant to kind of go into this uh, a defined methodology of learning through corporates, through working in organizations. Um, but then maybe that's the home for many, but equally the others who really enjoy um, being innovative, being entrepreneurial. And I feel like I had the bug. I always had that bug of doing my own thing. And I've discovered later in life, I never saw lemonade stands as a child at school. I must say, I didn't do that ever. I wish I did, though. I think I would be good at it. But when I discovered the entrepreneurship bug, since then, I've never been returned back. I worked for corporate in the middle, but then I was an entrepreneur in the corporate, so an entrepreneur in the company itself. I think for some people, that the whole passion, the thrill, the ups and downs are part of their lives, and that's what makes them. I think that's definitely the case for me. So for me, in my circumstances, I do enjoy the the startup route to run a company, to grow a company, but it's not for everybody. And I think it's to understand what is good for us and what matches our personality.
That's great insight, and I agree with you. Like someone should at least see how corporate looks like before they start, and it's good also to see how processes work, like why sales is needed, why marketing is needed, why business development is needed, and then although it's not a rule as you said, because we know there are a lot of uh, even college dropouts who started their businesses and they have never to be in a corporate, which is so as you said, it depends on the situation and a lot of things. Now, one thing, like because you've been also in the startup for a long time and you had a lot of ventures, what's your take on the startup ecosystem today? Are there any, I would say, areas that we can change it to the better? Is there anything that we need to drop off? And I'm talking about here from the whole startup ecosystem perspective, whether it's like, the way we establish the business, funding, like all the aspect. Can you think of anything that really needs some innovation today when it comes to startups?
Well, I think by definition, startups are an organization which are very agile. The reason why startups are even there with all the funding which large corporates have is because they can maneuver much faster. In fact, I read somewhere that in biomedical and in pharmaceuticals, for example, big companies wait for startups to do all the experimentation, and when they're going to get FDA approved or almost there, that's when they jump on acquiring them, as that's the way they go about their innovation. So I think startups are a innovation hub in many ways. It is no doubt that without startups, we will probably be without any, taxi sharing like Uber. We would be without any innovative vacation homes like Airbnb and the examples like that in the B2C and B2B world. I think there was a time when I first started working on startups that funding was much harder. I think today there's a lot of fund in the market. Well, saying that it's a bit dried up in the recent months because of was the a bit of a uh, recession-like scenario at the moment globally. Um, but I think one thing which I feel startups should be proud of and should do more of is being location independent. I think a lot of times I'm still seeing that startups have this mindset, and and I don't say it's wrong, but it's interesting is that you have to be based in Silicon Valley to be able to raise money, or you have
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to I feel like, well, actually, you can be based in, like, you're based in Dubai, for example. You can be based in Turkey or in Hong Kong, and still be able to raise money and meet the right people. I think there needs to be a better feedback loop, and again, there are organizations which can be really powerful. I'm part of this one organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a great way to meet new people and communicate with a lot of leaders in the space. But it's important to have that connection to the balance of the lack of connection face to face. So what I'll say is that that's my only thing, that I think there will be more displacement. There will be more area of startups. When we Stability AI, for example, is not based in California, but based in London, for example. So you can see that there's already a lot of innovation happening in AI, for example, which is happening outside the valley. And there is a lot of which you can expect in the UK because of this very liberal mindset, and Dubai as well. And Dubai has some very interesting corporate structures. So I think time will change, and I think we'll have more innovation from across the coming years.
You like how I would say this. You get to the point that I always talk about. Why only we can have big tech companies in the valley? Why? Like I always wondered this, and why we cannot. The good thing, it's yeah, we started to see, but if you ask the founder, not all of them. Oh, but one day a Silicon Valley big tech will buy me. okay, why you don't go and buy something from Silicon Valley? Like for me, like I'm not a guy who's started up many companies. I'm a new entrepreneur still, but my dream is I go and buy a, a startup from the Silicon Valley because yeah, Silicon Valley has its like I would say emotional like this kind of like we all have this memories about what we like how Apple started, how Microsoft it started, although Microsoft was in Seattle. And but anyway, like when you talk about these big techs, like all they started in the valley. Yeah, I wish that we one day we reach that stage. Why not from even like Southeast Asia, maybe something from Africa actually, which is I believe they can come up with a good tech also there. Before we finish, and this is something not related much to technology, but it caught my eyes, Raj. So I know that in your company you emphasize on having gender equality. Um, what did you see missing when it comes to diversity and inclusion that you know became for you a one of the pillars for your current business?
Thank you very much for bringing that question up. It's very, very dear to my heart, diversity and inclusion. And let me explain why that's the case. So when I was studying at school, I obviously had like, I would say 50-50 in sciences, women and men. As I go into university, that drops to like almost one in 1 in 50 were women. And then I go to the workspace in corporate and see there's hardly any women in technology. And I have a daughter who's 2 years old, and I don't want her to come up in a unfair society where women are not given the opportunity to be equal in every stance, in every space, in every sphere. And I've taken on myself to change that. So much so that that Goodman Lantern company I founded, and now it's 9 years old. We encourage and empower women in technology and marketing, such that 80% plus are women in the organization. And we work in the high tech sector. Now, I want to almost challenge sector and say, yes, we can. Yes, we can make an impact. And let's not just talk about it. Let's make some actions to make it happen. And so much so that, as I mentioned, 80% plus are women in Goodman Lantern. And um, what clients tell us from talking to them is that because we have the team members, they take great care of them throughout the journey working with us. Also, the content we produce is more neutral and more balanced as well. I think there's a lot of advantage of actually empowering marginalized communities or gender, for example, and make a change. Because you know it's easy to kind of follow the trend, but to buck the trend is where the opportunity lies. And I think women are a secret force to growth in the future of businesses. So if all you care about is grow your bottom line or top line, I think work with more women, especially in technology and marketing. It will change the business completely. And I know that change is seen in my business. And I think people who are currently following that mantra will see that change as well.
That's something that also I personally believe, and it's like about not only from gender perspective, diversity inclusion is something very important for any, uh, whether you are a startup or established business. This is something that it's a must-have. But you know, usually when I see like how women they can participate in tech, I see them very successful actually, because I believe I read it somewhere that they can be more organized than men, and they can structure in a better way. So and really it's a very I would say good from your side that you have dedicated this in your company, Raj. As we come to an end, I have a now traditional question I ask at the end to my guest. What is the question that you wished I asked you?
I think you've been very thorough there, Mehmet, in terms of asking questions. I think if I was to say what would be one question to ask, I think I would probably ask the question, um, where do I see um, Goodman Lantern company going in the future? I think that's something I keep getting asked all the time because it's a content marketing agency and we are in the very interesting cusp of AI innovation. Um, do you want me to answer the question as well, or just the
You
question
can
leading the
answer,
question?
of course, of course. So the idea is that you answer the question, of course.
Uh, so I would say that I think there is a very exciting opportunity for technology meeting human beings. I think we should be complementing each other, um, AI and human beings, as opposed to thinking of this as a threat only. If not used properly, yes, it can be a threat, but it's also an opportunity. I think going forward, Goodman Lantern is going to be a important player in the AI meets human, especially in the content space. I think this is going to be very exciting PES for us, and I'm actually can't wait for this to actually make that happen. So I also want to say thank you, Mehmet, for the opportunity to speak with you and all the insights you've allowed me to speak and also learn from you as well, Mehmet,
Oh,
for
thank
the
you.
course of our talk today.
I liked the way you ended when you said like things are exciting. Uh, I'm always an optimistic guy, and I'm repeating this again and again. AI is just a technology that we can leverage. Yes, it can be used in a, I mean, negative way. But like this is applies to many things as well. And we are repeating maybe ourselves. Like when the internet came up, people start to say it can be used in a bad way. Same thing happened to the smartphone. Say any new technology, of course, it falls in the hands of bad people. They can do something bad with it. But let's see how we can leverage this technology to create a better world and have a better future. Raj, I really enjoyed, the insight that you gave and the experience that you have. Thank you very much for being a guest with me today. And as usual, and this is to the audience, if you have any feedback or questions about this episode or the show in general, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can send me an email, reach out to me by LinkedIn or Twitter. If you are interested to be a guest, same as Raj today, you can also let me know. We can discuss that and we will arrange for this. If you are a first time a viewer or listener, don't forget to subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube or if you are listening on your favorite podcasting platform. And also, please tell your friends, colleagues, and family about the show. We are trying to make it as much informative as possible. And as usual, thank you very much. And we will meet in the next episode. Thank you.